What's up, everyone? Matt here with Down Once More, and it is the premiere night of The Last of Us Season 2. Episode 1, Future Days, premiered tonight, and so I'm picking back up on the instant reaction reviews of the episodes. 2 years ago when season 1 aired, I started doing these just because the show grabbed me more than I was expecting it to. I loved the games. I wanted to talk about the show afterwards. It went through some evolution during season 1 where I started doing like full recaps, and then that's just a lot. So this is what we're going to go with on season 2. We're going to streamline it a bit. What I'm going to talk about is my initial reaction to it, kind of what stood out to me from the episode. I'm going to talk about some Easter eggs, details that I noticed that pop up from the games, from what I can remember anyways. It's been a little bit since I played through part 2. Kind of what we see in the preview for next week, what's to come, kind of my predictions. I will go in with saying that there will be spoilers for the episode, but I'm not going to spoil anything from the games. I think if you haven't played the games, you're going into this episode as of its own thing, I'm not going to spoil that for you. You experience it on your own. If you want to eventually go and play the games because you're impatient and don't want to wait week for week, I get that. I would be the same way. And so I'll give a spoiler tag, and maybe at the end of each episode, I'll talk when I talk about my kind of predictions for what's to come. There will be spoilers from the games and what's going there. So, episode 1, Future Days. We starting out just seeing the full recap from season 1 was a lot. Just seeing that whole journey that Joel and Ellie went on, and even just kind of how Bill and Frank's story is pulled into that recap, and then ending with, well, technically it wasn't ending on the recap. This episode opened with the flashback of Joel and Ellie on the cliff overlooking as they're getting closer to Jackson, and Ellie having Joel swear to him that everything he said about what happened to Salt Lake City after Joel took out the Fireflies, because they were going to have to kill Ellie to try to create a cure based on her immunity. It was going to kill her because they were having to go into her brain, and Joel just taking everyone out. And Joel swears to Ellie that what he told her was true. And you can see the look on Ellie's face, like she doesn't really believe him, but she's going to begrudgingly choose to because that's the easier option for her right then. And so I thought it was an interesting choice to open with that instead of keeping that as part of the flashback, because it does kind of set the tone for everything that kind of plays out in this episode, where you get kind of Joel and Ellie's tension with each other and what's to come. So it has that flashback clip and then cut to black, and then immediately opens on Abby, Owen, Nora, Mel, and Manny, the 5 remaining from Salt Lake City, the teens that were alive after Joel's kind of massacre of all of the Fireflies and everyone in the hospital to save Ellie. This is a huge departure from the game. We do get introduced to Abby early on, probably about 30 minutes into the game, but we don't know who she is, except that she's looking for someone. We don't know who, and she's with a group of people, and they're looking to find more details on someone, and eventually you find out it's Joel. But we're going in right from the bat with Abby and the crew just standing by the mass graves and the crosses on the graves from the people that Joel had killed, and you see kind of the anger and grief on all their faces and frustration, and when they're talking out, and we're getting the hints that they're going to Seattle because Owen says that Ed had a brother in Seattle, Isaac, that would take them all in. And Abby's just set on finding Joel. She says, not until we're going to find Joel, we are going to find him. And Owen kind of talks her down, saying that, well, let's go to Seattle first, get some resources, get built up. We don't have any leads right now. And Abby just makes him promise that they'll help find him and then kill him. And then Abby goes and puts the firefly necklace on her dad's grave, which is a nice touch, getting the firefly pendants and necklaces from the games. Nice little Easter egg there. And then just says slowly. And when Owen questions it, she said, when we kill him, we will kill him slowly. And I just think that ominous nature in introducing you to Abby and this grief so early on. It's something the showrunners Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann were saying at the end, that this season is really all about the consequences of violence and how far you'll go in the pursuit of justice when you're feeling righteous and just in your action. And Craig Mazin had said it felt like it was important to show up front the people impacted by Joel's decision. Who are they and what are they going to do about it? I have mixed feelings about this. I don't actually love that introduction. I feel like the tension that the game can build over that, it hits you on a different level with everything that ends up playing out, which I'm not going to spoil here. But I feel like opening up immediately where you know Abby's mission, you know what they're setting out to do when they're going to Jackson. So this episode ends with Abby and Owen are the only two whose faces you see, but you see multiple other people coming up on Jackson in the snow at night. If they could see it in the distance. So we already know what their purpose is there. We already know who they're after, what their ultimate mission is. And so that stage is already set. I feel like that takes away a little bit of mystery and, like I said, just anticipation that there is in the game. But I'm not going to doubt these showrunners. They know what they're doing. I did a rewatch of season 1 leading up to this, and it just blew me away again, how great of a job they did adapting it. And yes, there are far less infected. Yes, there weren't spores, things like that. But the action, the fighting the infected is never was what The Last of Us was about. It was about the human story. It was about the drama and how, in most cases, the people are worse than the infected. That's what the real scary situation is. But back to the episode, we're introduced to a whole lot of new characters in the new cast for season 2. Kaitlyn Dever as Abby, obviously talked about her casting on here, where I'm a big Kaitlyn Dever fan. I think she is a fantastic actress. So I'm interested to see what she does with the role of Abby. A lot of people were upset they didn't get the bulked up Abby like in the game. They say the reason for that is just in the game, you need to have a bulked up Abby to kind of have a different element in gameplay from Ellie, kind of differentiate the two. Abby's a little bit more of a brute, kind of like Joel in a way. So when you're playing as Abby, you want it to feel different than when you're playing as Ellie. I could also see them, if they would have decided to have Kaitlyn Dever bulk up, it's like, no, she's just fueled by vengeance and she wants to be as powerful as possible. But Abby is also someone who is very intelligent. And so Kaitlyn Dever can play that. And we saw in just the few minutes that we got with her in this, I think she'll be able to bring the emotion and the intensity to this role. So people who are doubting her, I think she's going to do great. We have Spencer Lord as Owen, Tati Gabriel as Nora, Ariella Bearer as Mel, and Danny Ramirez as Manny, kind of closing out that Salt Lake City 5 group. Danny Ramirez, we see him in Top Gun Maverick, we see him in Captain America, Brave New World as the new Falcon. So Danny Ramirez having quite a run for himself lately. Good for him. But then after we close out in that group, we jump back to we have the 5-year time jump. So they did keep the 5-year time jump that exists in the games. We're back in Jackson. We're introduced to a couple new characters. Then we're introduced to young Maximo, who plays Jesse, and we're introduced to Isabella Merced as Dina. So, I really enjoyed in this episode. And again, these are going to be quick, heavy hitters. Not really. They're quick. Also, apologies. It's like 1:30 a.m. when I'm recording this. I had a concert tonight, which of course was the first night of The Last of Us Season 2 premiere. And so I didn't get home till after like almost midnight and then watching the episode. And then here I am. So most of the drops won't be this late. I'll be watching them as they are live, recording, editing, uploading. you're getting about 4 or 5 hours later than usual this week. So hopefully you enjoy. But we're also introduced to a new character for the show that did not exist in the game, and that is Catherine O'Hara as Gale. Now, Gale was what her character was kept pretty much under wraps until the episode debuted, but she is a therapist. And so Craig Mazin said they felt like with everything people were going to, people would probably be in need of a therapist there. So they wanted to kind of bring this character in and have her as someone who's interacting with Joel, because we get Joel and Ellie are kind of on the outs and their relationship isn't the same as what we left them at the end of season 1 and just their whole arc through season 1. There's a rift between them and we don't quite know what it is. We can guess it, we can imply it, but it hasn't been explicitly laid out for us. Right. And so Joel is in therapy. We see Joel have a conversation with Dina early on in this episode, which is a new kind of dynamic that didn't exist in the games. Like Joel and Dina, they talk a little bit about each other, but we never really see them interacting. And so having Joel kind of have this kind of fatherhood kindred spirit with Dina as well, and that's actually a first introduction to Dina. It's kind of nice, and he even says at one point when he's talking to Gale that Dina feels more like what a daughter should than Ellie. Ellie just wants to fight him, and he feels like Dina's just giving him all this like not necessarily attention, but giving him what he needs, and Ellie's not. So I think adding the character of Gale, there's a few things with him. She's a therapist. We're getting more of Joel talking through his thoughts and seeing that he is broken. He is getting older. So we had him having panic attacks in season 1, right? When he starts really fearing for Ellie and what could happen to her, where he starts kind of closing up, not being able to breathe. And then in this episode, we see his age. He's getting older. So when he's trying to place the springs in the circuit breaker, when he's interacting with Dina, his hands shaking a little bit. So he's getting older. He's not quite what he used to be, but he's still broken. And he's still kind of justifying things because he tells Dina, he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, I don't know why she's mad at me. And then he tells Gale. Gale tells him that she hates Joel because he killed her husband. He killed Eugene, and he killed him, and she knows they had to do it, but it was how he did it and that he did it in the house. So I know we'll get some more of that story. The Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin have already said that there's a standalone episode, kind of like the Bill and Frank one, that focuses on Eugene. My guess is we'll probably get that episode 3 or 4. I think they'll do it early in the season again. And so adding in Eugene as a character that existed in the game, he had basically a pot farm in the basement of this building that Dina and Ellie go to hide out, get high, and you learn a little bit about him from what Dina says and some letters that you can find in the game. And so adding him as a character with a wife who's a therapist, and it sounds like they're really going to expand on his story, which I'm interested to see how they do. I think the Bill and Frank episode was one of the best of season 1. People had mixed feelings about it, but it told such a beautiful story and built so much kind of love and compassion and empathy for these characters who aren't quite what you're expecting in a 1-hour time frame. And it was beautiful and it was fantastic. So that's why I'm not going to doubt these showrunners. There was so much from this episode that was pulled straight from the games too. We're getting a little bit more of the backstory because the games, it opens up in the aftermath of what happened with Ellie and Dina's kiss and the fallout of that. So it opens the next morning. Things are tense between Joel and Ellie. Ellie's going to go out on patrol with Dina, which I think we'll get kind of to open up episode 2 next week. And so, well, actually the game opens with Tommy telling Joel what he did. Joel telling Tommy what he did, and Tommy saying he doesn't know if he would have done much different. So Joel being completely honest with Tommy, and so Tommy now knows of everything. But I don't know. I thought this was a great introduction to season 2. Like I said, I think we're taking a lot of the kind of tension out with Abby, but with how the game's set up and how the show is set up, there is never going to be a perfect way to intermix those stories. I don't believe. I'll talk a little bit at the end where I'm talking about spoilers, but I think my prediction for what's going to happen in season 2, way off. So I think we're going to be in for quite the ride. The preview at the end of the episode looked like it was more for the whole season, not just what's going to happen next week. If it was what's just going to happen next week, then it's going to be a fucking massive episode if we're having Isaac, the WLF, Seraphites, Dina and Ellie, in the train cars and the subway, like all that stuff. If we're getting all that next week, then it is going to be insane. But I do think it's just what's to come on the season. It didn't explicitly say that. So I thought this was a fantastic opening episode to season 2. I'd probably give it an 8. But now let's get into a couple fun Easter eggs and bonuses from the games. So I already called out, you had the Firefly necklaces, pendants that Abby and everyone are leaving on the graves of everyone in Salt Lake City. And then you have Tommy and Ellie kind of practicing with the sniper rifle, taking out infected. And the dialogue in that scene, it doesn't take place in the snow in the game. There's a flashback about, a decent chunk of time in when Ellie discovers a sniper rifle. So you have to do your tutorial on how to use it. But of them just sniping infected and Tommy telling you to account for the wind and the bullet drop and everything like that. That dialogue is pulled almost straight from the game. So it's really cool to see that in the show. Ellie and Dina, that whole scene at the New Year's party was almost shot for shot from the game. The dialogue was almost the same. Even the framing of the scene almost identical. Jesse's comments word for word from the game. I appreciate Craig Mazin's vision with this and Neil Druckmann's involvement. You can tell that they are so passionate about the source material. I mean, Neil Druckmann created it, right, with his team, and so it makes sense. And I'm really glad that they're doing the show and the story justice. I actually prefer the story that's told in part 2 of the game better than the first part, which was season 1. So I'm really excited to see how they do this. Another kind of Easter egg call out in the game is we're introduced to stalkers. That's the one infected in the grocery store, which that whole grocery store scene, a lot of that is right from the game as well. What happens, the setting, falling through the roof, and then the stalkers being there. So the stalkers are the new type of infected. So we have Ellie and Dina talking to the council afterwards, saying that they seem smarter. They attack kind of like how we would. They take cover. They go for the element of surprise. Like, it seems like the infected are getting smarter, and it's scary. And one thing I didn't call out earlier, but that I really enjoyed about this episode, was seeing more of Dina and Ellie's relationship from the get-go. Like, Joel calls out to Dina that she's Ellie's best friend, so she should know. Why didn't Ellie tell her why she's mad at Joel? And then you see them when they're planning out to how they're going to take out the clicker in the grocery store, and then another Easter egg nod to the games. They point at the bottle, which in the games you throw the bottle, distract them, or throw it at them and stun them. And also in the grocery store, there was on the Employee of the Month board, there was a dog. It was the Employee of the Month for one of them. And so that's also an Easter egg from the game. That Employee of the Month board exists. There is a dog that is the Employee of the Month in 1 month, and you actually have a hint to find out that month to let you open a safe in there and get some supplies. Fun fact and pro tip for the game, if you didn't know, go find a note that will tell you, and you'll search and find what month the dog is the Employee of the Month, and you'll be able to open a safe. So a lot of fun stuff from the games pulled into this, like even the dialogue with Seth. The nice bigoted man who thinks he's doing what he needs to protect Jackson by telling Dina and Ellie to stop kissing on the dance floor because it's a family event in a church. And then, of course, comes in because he's so concerned about family values with throwing the slur out and calling him dykes. And then Joel comes in, thinks he needs to intervene, protect Ellie. Ellie gets mad at Joel, kind of embarrasses him in front of the town because she doesn't need him to protect her, because she's just had all that pent up rage and everything from what happened in Salt Lake City, and him feeling that need to protect her and not caring about what she thinks or giving her that choice. And so I thought it was really neat to see all of this play out. Now, a couple of differences from the game, and this is where I'm going to get into spoilers for future. So, skip ahead, time codes in the bottom if you don't want to be spoiled for the game. I think introducing us to Abby's mission and the fact that she says they want to kill him slowly really takes away some of the impact that will happen when she eventually kills him. In the games, it is so brutal and it is so heartbreaking because it's so much worse than what you would imagine. And you don't quite know what to expect with it. And watching that play out and just feeling helpless, just like Ellie does as she's watching it in the games, is really emotional and gut-wrenching. And I'm sure it still will be in here. But I don't know. To me, it detracts from it a little bit. But I kind of get what they're saying too. Like, you want to see right off the bat that Joel's actions have consequences. So we'll see. I also feel like I said, where I was completely off, I thought we weren't going to get Joel's death until at least halfway through the season, which is only a 7-episode season. What the fuck is up with that? Very disappointing. Like, if you're splitting the game into at least 2 seasons, because season 3 did officially get confirmed, could we just do like a 14-episode season instead of 2 7-episode seasons? That's what kind of fucked with Game of Thrones there towards the end. But whatever, we're gonna trust the process, trust them. I thought we wouldn't get Joel's death until the midway or the penultimate episode. What kind of made me change my mind was seeing some of the previews and stills that take place in Seattle. And so I'm like, okay, we are going to get further and get to midway through Seattle, at least in this season, it's looking like. And it's looking like we're going to get Joel's death at the end of episode 2. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll call it out in a minute when I get off the spoilers, but I'm really intrigued how the story plays out and how they're making it different from the games to still keep it fresh, new, and interesting for those who played the games. Okay, spoilers over. At the end of this episode, we do see, which I kind of had a feeling when they broke open the clay pipe that was a stoppage and find all these what look like twigs, that somehow that was going to release some cordyceps. Well, at the end of the New Year's party, someone throws a sparkler. It lands by the open pipe, and we see some cordyceps veins moves, which we learned in season 1 that they're all connected, and so you can step on a patch of cordyceps, and miles away, it'll wake up a horde. So we saw some flashes in the preview for the season of what looked like a whole hordes of infected coming upon Jackson in season 2, in episode 2, and so we'll go from there. But I think that's gonna do it. I don't have a lot of other thoughts. It's almost 2 a.m. I gotta get this edited and up. Thank you for tuning in. This will be more coherent and streamlined starting next week when it is not the middle of the night. But such a fantastic first episode of season 2, really setting the stage for what's to come. Make sure you like, comment, follow, subscribe. YouTube, all podcast platforms, all that fun stuff. Typically, we talk about musicals, pop culture, random fun stuff. So this Wednesday, the episode that's coming out, so that's when new normal episodes drop, Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Central Time, or on audio platforms at midnight. But this week's episode, we're going to be talking about Jesus Christ Superstar, the Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice rock opera. from 1971. Specifically, the 1973 movie is what we're discussing. So, if that interests you, check it out. If you like musicals or just random other things in general, you want to see what we got on the pod feed, got, I think, a little over 130 episodes out there. So, we got some playlists on YouTube's, lots of things to find, enjoy, lots of musical reviews, kind of some streaming movie recaps, things like that. Check it out. Give us a like, give us a follow, all that fun stuff. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know your favorite part and what you're most excited about in season 2, what's to come, and we'll go from there. So thank y'all. See you next week. Don't forget to go down once more. Later.